Welcome to the only daily podcast focusing on compliance news of the day. Each morning, start your day with a cup of coffee and Tom Fox, the voice of compliance, to hear about 4 of the top compliance, corruption, or leadership stories you will need to start your day. The Daily Compliance News is a production of the Compliance Podcast Network.
August 1, 2020, the Corruption in Sports edition. We begin with 2 articles from the Financial Times. The first is about a very disconcerting rift between the UK Serious Fraud Office, and the U.S. Department of Justice. It is a sign of some very ruffled feathers around the Unaoil case. Initially, the Assange brothers were spirited out of Monaco and came to the United States to plead guilty and cooperate with U.S. authorities, while UK authorities were trying to extradite them so that they could stand trial in the United Kingdom. But now it turns out that one or more of the Assange brothers had filed a complaint against the lead British prosecutor, one Tom Price. But they didn't file that complaint with, Tom Martin. But they did not file that complaint directly with the SFO. They filed it with the Department of Justice, who sent it over to the SFO. Also, Australian regulators apparently filed a complaint with him. It is unclear of the nature of what the complaints were, but he was investigated and he was terminated by the SFO. He is fighting that termination in the United Kingdom, but a very unusual case where the Department of Justice would be a part of a criminal defendant's complaint against a brother anti-corruption agency. This is all, of course, a part of the convictions of 2 Assange associates and former Unaoil executives, one who got a hung jury, and the sentencing that they will get probably after the Assange brothers are sentenced, or at least scheduled to be sentenced in October. But never good when the 2 top anti-corruption enforcement agencies around start to point fingers at each other. Our second article also comes from the FT. It's the always great lunch with the FT. And today they have lunch with Gregori Rodchenkov. He was a doping kingpin who helped Russia's athletes top medal tables. Then he blew the whistle. While he cooks some borscht, he talks to Murad Ahmed about fleeing his homeland, life in hiding, and his part in the biggest scandal in sports. His bottom line is that sports will never be clean. So pretty grim news from the FT today. 2 more stories, one from the Wall Street Journal, that the SFO has brought criminal charges against an Airbus subsidiary. This obviously represents a step forward for the UK SFO in the incredibly politically sensitive Airbus case because, of course, Saudi Arabia is a major client, and they are the ones who are charged around receiving the results of the bribery and corruption. And finally, once again, we have options with a corporate CEO getting options the day before some very good news. And that, of course, is the Kodak CEO, as Kodak pivots away from films and cameras to supplies for the COVID-19 pandemic. The CEO of COVID got some $50 million in options the day before the deal was announced. I'm sure that is simply a coincidence and nothing to worry about in terms of insider information going forward. The Daily Compliance News is a production of the Compliance Podcast Network and a proud member of C-Suite Radio. Thanks so much for listening. I hope you'll join me again tomorrow.